The Rangers and Yankees, two historic slugging teams. But which teams will have the better offense in 2024? Talk about all that and more on this crossover episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 10 seasons, including all 5 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you already can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. You can also follow my guests, Stacy and Steve. Where can they find you and all of y'all's great work at Locked On Yankees?
Where can they find us, Steve? You can find me on Twitter at Stay Scotts.
Yeah, that's just follow the show. I have abandoned my Twitter. It is over, folks. It is so over. But yeah, follow the show and more so on the YouTube side. We put out a lot of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, they are crushing it on the YouTube side and on the podcast side, just in general, just like the Yankees have crushed this offseason. Before we get into today's show, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, the Rangers have been a team that has had very loud off seasons the last couple of years, and this year, not so much. It's been incredibly quiet, but all the headlines have been taken by those New York Yankees leaning back into becoming the villains they were laughed at, scoffed at after an 82-80 horrible finish. No team's ever had that bad of a season, ever, as it seemed Yankees were having last year. But here they come and make a trade for Juan Soto, giving them, I would say, probably the best top 2 batters of any lineup in Major League Baseball. But the question behind that lineup is, who else is there in this Yankees lineup outside of the great Juan Soto and Aaron Judge?
You have plenty of people.
There's
Gleyber
a lot
Torres.
there. Yeah, I think, Stacey, yeah, you're right there. That's the first one that came to my head when he said that. I was like, Gleyber was one of the best offensive second basemen in baseball last year. Not to scoff at one of the best offensive second basemen in baseball last year. But yeah, Gleyber quietly was, as on the position player front, the best Yankee last year. Yeah. And no one seems to really care.
Yeah. Like, he was the most reliable. He was around the longest. He didn't take any extended IL trips. And,
I don't think he had any IL trips.
Yeah, no, I think he was the most healthy. Yeah.
He got scratched a couple times, but I don't think he ever actually had any IL trips last year.
Yeah. Like, he was the guy last year, and he did fly under the radar. Aside from him, all right. We're going to have a healthy Anthony Rizzo. And DJ LeMahieu turned things around in the second half. Sean Casey actually helped him out a little bit there when he was hitting coach. And he rebounded very nicely. And if the Yankees can get second half DJ LeMahieu, healthy Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres, Judge, Soto, and second-year Anthony Volpe, maybe improving upon his rookie year, that's a solid group right there.
You didn't even bring up Alex Verdugo, Stacey. Like,
I know.
I think when you're looking at the Yankees, obviously the sexy move is Juan Soto. Clearly, we're all looking at that. But when you're looking at just the overall improvement of the roster and where it stands as the number 1 guys, your first options are much better than the first options they had last year. The depth is better. I wouldn't say it's full-fledged and no issues there whatsoever. But I still think when you're looking at this roster overall, Stace, like, the number 1 choices, the regular starting guys, are basically an improvement at every position. At least that's what you're anticipating.
I forgot about Verdugo. I'm so sorry, Alex Verdugo.
I honestly forgot about Alex Verdugo as well. I mean, Gleyber Torres is a guy that definitely sticks out to me. I mean, looking at some of his numbers from last year, I mean, under 100 strikeouts, playing in all but 4 games last year and 800 OPS. But everything that I see about him from Yankees fans that I know is usually just like hating on Gleyber Torres. And I'm like, this guy seems like a really solid player on most teams. I feel like he'd be, very appreciated, like 25 home runs and 28 doubles as a second baseman that plays like every single day. That's a very valuable bat to have in your lineup for sure. But I think that my question is about like comparing the Rangers depth and what made their offense so successful last year in the postseason is the depth of like just 1 through 9 for sure is just like there is not an easy out in the lineup, especially now that Austin Hedges is elsewhere. There is not going to be a single easy out in this lineup. I mean, your number 9 hitter is probably going to be Lily Taveras, who had a 733 OPS last year as an everyday starting center fielder, a guy who had has 2020 potential. I mean, he's got a lot of raw power, is incredibly streaky, but the guy who's projected to be their number 8 hitter in the lineup next year is Wyatt Langford, who's one of the top prospects in all of baseball and projected to have like around 820, I think, OPS according to Fangraphs. And if you have that guy as your number 8 hitter, I feel like you're in a pretty good spot as a lineup, wouldn't you say?
I'll take it because the Yankees don't really have that luxury right now because the 8th spot in the lineup is in all likelihood a catcher, which you have Jose Trevino there right now, and then it's a toss-up. I know Locked On Yankees fans are going to start screaming at me again. Just like I didn't even look at the comments for our episode on Tuesday because I know they were screaming about this, but that catcher position is going to be Jose Trevino with, I say, Ben Rortvedt backing up, but a lot of people think that 22 games of a 210 hitter or 220 hitter or whatever of Austin Wells proves it enough that he makes it out of camp. But again, I digress. That's not necessarily the same situation that the Yankees are in.
Yeah, former Ranger great Jose Trevino. I mean, how is he hit with the Yankees? He was a guy who was an incredible hitter in high school, like has like some state records for like most like home runs, I think, in a single season in a Texas high school baseball season, was I think at least a one-time state champion, and then transitioned to catcher once he went to the minor leagues. Has he still been hitting kind of like he's swinging with a pool noodle with the Yankees as well?
What happened was, he came to the Yankees, unheralded. It like suddenly happened like right before the season started in 22. Everyone's like, wait, what just happened? And he was like a guy on fire, making the all-star team and all this stuff. And it was basically, he followed the same blueprint as the 2022 Yankees, hot in the first half and then nothing in the second half. And that continued into 23. And then he injured himself and then he was out for, half the year. So with his wrist, hopefully he'll be healthy. And if we can get, first half 22 Trevino, the one that hit a few walk-offs, not home runs, just, singles and stuff. I mean, I'd be happy with that.
I think what we've kind of landed on a lot when we talk about the roster construction right now about the Yankees is you don't need anything out of your catchers, really. Like when you're really looking up and down that lineup, if everybody's hitting the way they're supposed to, which of course happens every season for every team in history, then you don't really need much out of your catcher. You'll take what you can get when you're the Yankees. Trevino is obviously there defensively. That's what Higgy was there for defensively. That's what Ben Rortvedt projects to be a little bit as well. On Austin Wells, it's kind of the flip side of that. He's there for the offensive side of things as opposed to the defensive.
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers were choosing between Jose Trevino and Jonah Heim before that 2020. Was it 22 or 21 where the Rangers sent Heim there? I think it was before 22.
22.
Yeah, and the Rangers picked Jonah Heim because there's offensive upside, obviously a lot more power there. And Jose Trevino, they were right there. Like if not for that Yankees bump in voting, I think that Jonah Heim might be a 2-time All-Star at this point. Instead, he is a 1-time All-Star, but I will take it because the Rangers lineup, they are looking to get just any kind of bonus out of their catcher right now. And Jonah Heim is kind of providing them that bonus as a guy who's probably hitting 7th or 8th in their lineup as a switch hitting catcher who's hopefully going to finally hit 20 home runs this year. If not for a wrist injury, he would have gotten that 20 home run plateau, which the Rangers have not had a catcher who has hit 20 home runs in the hottest of minutes, I think, since 2016.
Napoli?
That
wouldn't be that long ago, right?
It's been Napoli had like 30 home runs. I think it is Robinson Chirinos was the last one in 2016, which that is a name that is a blast from the past. Coming up, we're going to look at the projections. Should the Yankees be favored to win the American League this year over the reigning AL champion and World Series champion Texas Rangers? We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after this, from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can place all kinds of bets on your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. If you wanted to bet on a star player from either the New York area and former Mavericks great Jalen Brunson going off and having a big game, or Luka Doncic, you wanted to bet on Luka Doncic MVP odds, or you wanted to bet on a MLB or AL, excuse me, AL MVP favorite in Aaron Judge or Corey Seager. You can look at those odds on FanDuel. Check it out, FanDuel.com/lockedon, and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Now, it seems like every single projection for the standings for this year, whether it's is it Petcoa? Patoka? I swear.
Pacoda.
Pacoda, that's what it is. I read it as Petcoa when I first initially read it, and it has stuck there ever since, and I have been maintaining that mistake for years and years to come. Or whether it's Fangraphs projections, they have the Yankees finishing atop the AL East and as one of the best teams in the American League. How confident are you all that the Yankees can come out of the American League and get back to the World Series for the first time since, 2009? It's been so long, I've just forgotten the Yankees actually used to win games.
All right, calm down over there.
Weird that you bring up Pacoda, Bryce. Stacey, we just talked about this the other day on Locked On Yankees. I'm not putting so much stock into Pacoda. Last season, Pacoda didn't have the Rangers making the postseason. It had the Yankees 9 games over the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League East. So take all of those projections with like the largest grain of salt you can possibly muster.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't have the Yankees as the favorite in the American League East. Stacey, I know we've dabbled in this, but I don't think you have them either.
No. I don't think they're going to be bad. I just think they're not going to be as far ahead of every other team as the projections think they're going to be.
Yeah, we have discussed the almighty Baltimore Orioles on a handful of occasions, and I'm sure we'll continue to discuss them throughout the season, and with the addition of Corbin Burns to that team and everybody who else is still waiting in Norfolk to add to that roster. And who's waiting in AA and single A and low A and all the way down to the complex league. Like that system just keeps getting better, seemingly, weirdly enough. And we are very much screaming to the heavens to not take the Baltimore Orioles lightly, because last season, I don't think I've seen a lot of those players now in the majors. I saw them in AAA. I don't think this is a flash in the pan, man. I think Baltimore is going to be pretty legit for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Like John Smoltz, the Baltimore Orioles, John Smoltz's favorite team. I don't know if y'all remember of Game 3, while the Rangers were stomping the Orioles in what was a sweep, just the final 3 innings was John Smoltz giving this glowing eulogy about how actually the Orioles are, so set up for the future. They're such a great team. Everything's so amazing about the Orioles while they're getting canned in what is going to be a sweep. And so Rangers fans and myself have always, held that over John Smoltz as the Orioles are John Smoltz's favorite team. I think it was just him hating on the Rangers. It was just a lot of nonsense. Even when the Diamondback series, when the Rangers were like an inning away, John Smoltz was like, well, this Diamondback team, they've got a really bright future. And I was like, all right, John Smoltz, can you just shut up for about 5 minutes? But I'm curious, what is it these projections are liking about the Yankees that you guys are more skeptical of?
I think it's the injury stuff,
Yeah.
right? I think it's the we're still a bit PTSD shell shocked from last season, and it was checks watch right around this time last year that we started going, man, a lot of these injuries are popping up, and he's supposed to be back by now, and how long did they say? And wait a second. Oh, it's the All-Star break.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what's really driving us is, like I mentioned a little bit, Stace, I know you can go into this further, of the depth is better. I wouldn't say it's best,
Right.
especially, I know we're going to get into this, the pitching front, but especially on the rotation side, like 1 or 2 injuries and you're already going, like Luke Weaver and Clayton Beater are now getting regular every 5 days right now. So it's a little touch and go when it comes to pitching. And we both kind of pontificated that that's a recurring word now apparently on the show, pontificated that they might be, if they're in the running / near the running, making a move at the deadline for another arm.
Yeah, I can totally see that happening. But the thing you have to remember with the projections is they don't take injuries into account, which is why the Yankees looked so good last year. Because if no one was injured on the Yankees and maybe they had a couple of little injuries and, maybe some guys made the IL, that was going to be a really good team before those guys all got injured. I mean, if you're starting the season with 3/5 of your rotation on the IL, you're not going to finish with a good year because you're going to start off slow. So that's why the projections are looking the way they're looking, because they're looking at the roster, looking at how these guys have done and taking it that way. So again, they have a chance to do really well, but there's a lot of luck involved in that too, because you have to have guys doing the right thing at the right time and not getting injured. So.
Especially like in this conversation, top of mind is Texas, right? Like the roller coastery 2023 that you went down. I mean, we were talking about you. Like we were talking about you on Locked On Yankees. We barely see each other and we're going like, what in the world's going on in the AL West and what in the world's going on with the Texas Rangers? Like you were so, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but for lack of a better word, lucky that you were able to make it through that kind of stuff, to where the Yankees were on the complete opposite end of that, where it's like, okay, it's time for so-and-so to step up. And then they didn't. Like, that's the flip side of the coin, is you got the guys stepping up and the Yankees did not have that at all.
Yeah, it was the weirdest. Like, it's hard to say like the Rangers were lucky when you get 6 starts of Jacob deGrom. Like, it's hard to say you had a good injury like season, and especially when you missed like 40 games of your star shortstop and Corey Seager. But they kind of did. Like, they got injuries, obviously, but they had the depth to sustain it. And the guys who stepped up to, come in for those injuries, like Ezekiel Duran was on fire for the first half of the year. And the Rangers, former Yankee great, him and Josh Smith both stepping up great for the Rangers where they needed it most. Not so much Glenn Otto, that ship has sailed, but Trevor Hauver is still waiting to be the fourth impact of a trade that hurt my feelings so badly for my large adult son, Joey Gallo. But the Rangers had guys step up when other guys got healthy. They had injuries that, healed at exactly the right time, because Nathan Eovaldi was an absolute dog on the mound for the first half of the season when there was not a whole lot else in this rotation. When Jacob deGrom went down, I mean, Dunning was much better than expected in the first half. John Gray was average. Heaney was average. And people kind of forget that they also had Martin Perez in the rotation that was not doing a whole lot there. But I mean, Eovaldi stepped up big and then got hurt right after the All-Star break and came back and made like 2 or 3 rehab starts in the majors down the stretch in the regular season, where he got crushed and everyone thought, oh, this guy just sucks now. And he was just rehabbing at the big league level in a pennant chase, which is very difficult to do, but then was just immediately healthy by the time the playoffs rolled around. And he was his normal Nate Eovaldi playoff self, which is a very, very good starting pitcher. Coming up, we're going to talk about these 2 rotations and Nate Eovaldi and how healthy can these rotations be, right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry about buying tickets for your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute tickets, all in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Just the other week, I bought tickets to a Mavs game last minute. I was thinking, you know what? These Mavericks are actually pretty good, pretty fun right now. And, I looked on Gametime and the tickets were, a really great deal there. It was such an easy way to get tickets. I could see exactly what it's going to look like from my seat. Just fantastic ticket buying experience. 10 out of 10 would recommend every single time. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, I don't know if y'all have seen that meme. That's this it's more of a cartoon that it has like a handsome person hitting on a woman, and it says, "Oh, that's okay." But then it's an ugly guy hitting on this woman, and she says she's calling HR. And I think of that meme when I think of these two starting pitching rotations, especially with these projection systems, because both of these pitching staffs are very injury prone. The Rangers already have 3 guys that are going to be on the IL till about midseason. But when these projection systems see the Yankees injured pitching staff, they think, oh, wow, that's so handsome. But then when they look at the Rangers, they say, oh no, I'm calling HR. This is not okay. Because the Rangers have literally 3 starting pitchers that will be out until about mid-season. Max Scherzer will be out until June after getting surgery on a herniated disc, which I'm pretty sure is what he suffered in Game 3 of the World Series when he took that liner off the back off of an amazing play that Josh Young made to get the Rangers out of that inning. A World Series the Rangers won, in case people have forgotten. Just
say it as many times as you can.
I have been saying it about 50 times an episode just to convince myself that it really happened. Because I'm still not entirely sure that it did, and that I didn't, die in a car accident on my way to Game 7 of the ALCS. I'm still not sure that didn't happen. But they also have Jacob deGrom, who's going to be out until about August, recovering from Tommy John surgery. And they also signed Tyler Mahle, who is going to be out until about July, is the expectation, who also had Tommy John surgery last year. But the rest of the Rangers pitching staff, as of right now, looks like this. As of opening day, Nathan Eovaldi as your number 1, John Gray as your number 2, Dane Dunning, Andrew Heaney, and then it is going to be Cody Bradford, the youngster from Aledo, Texas, and Baylor as well. But I'm curious, when you look at this Yankee pitching staff, how many of these guys do you trust are going to be healthy to pitch you even 150 innings this year?
Cole.
And somehow Clark Schmidt.
Yeah, Cole and Schmidt, the 1 and the 5. the bookends at the end.
Yeah, your meme is maybe perfect for your situation. The meme that comes to mind when I think of the Yankees rotation is the dog in the house on fire.
Yeah,
this is fine.
This is fine
because like, even looking at if it's fully healthy, there's still two big question marks there, and Carlos Rodon and Nestor Cortez. You have no clue right now what's going to happen when they get on the mound. With Carlos last season, dude, I don't know what in the world was going on there. We have come to the conclusion we think it was completely injury dependent, that it was messing with his delivery because of the injuries that it was, most notably the back. That was not allowing him to finish fully, so he wasn't snapping his pitches, which is relieving him over the plate a little bit more. But when it comes to Nestor Cortez, it's the recovery stuff that has me losing sleep overnight, going like, is this dude going to not pitch his first game? I'm not worried about his first game. I'm worrying about his second, then his third, then his fourth, all the way up to 30. If he can get there. Like, it's coin tossing a lot, and the Yankees are putting a lot of faith in those guys. Stacey, we just did it on Tuesday's episode. That's the number one thing that we're looking out for this spring training, is how are Carlos Rodon and Nestor Cortez feeling?
Yep.
Yeah, and one of the things that I find interesting is Marcus Stroman as well. Like, he's only thrown about 130 innings, under 140 the last couple of years. I mean, he was pretty durable in 2019 and in 2021. He threw about 180 innings. Those years had a couple of back-to-back 200 innings in 2016 and 17 with Toronto. But, like, he hasn't thrown 150 innings since 2021. And is that what you're expecting from him? Or are you thinking just last year it was a little bit of injuries that kind of, bugged him in the second half of the season? Or what are the expectations for Marcus Stroman this year?
Yeah, I think the injury affected him. And as long as he's coming in healthy, you know, we were also saying this on Tuesday's show, that it's not a guarantee that the rotation is going to be Cole, Rodon, Nestor, Stroman, Clark Schmidt. We feel like maybe Stroman has the leg up on the 3 spot ahead of Nestor just because of Nestor's issues that he had in 2023, and Stroman has more of a track record in the starting rotation. I'm actually not worried about Stroman. I'm really not. I think he could be really good. And he's also, the thing I like about it is they're not making him, like, he's not expected to be the ace on the team. He doesn't have to come out and be spectacular, but it'd be great if he did, That'd be a nice strong number 3 right there, especially with those question marks we had just mentioned. But I think the hip gave him a problem in the second half last year, and if he's healthy, I think he should be fine.
Yeah, because he was leading that rotation. Yes, Kyle Hendricks, you could say, but he was really leading that rotation with the injuries that they were dealing with in Chicago, and you can pretty much see the similar path that the Cubs took in relative correlation to his injury. Like, yes, they really, really fell apart there in September. I mean, the end of August, they were in a playoff spot, or, within a half a game or a game or so in Chicago. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Stace. I'm not necessarily concerned about Marcus Stroman in the slightest. I'm still keeping my eye on that 2 and that 4 in Rodon and Cortez. Like everybody else, I feel at least at relative ease. But like you said, if he doesn't have to be the ace, which is the case, then I will take what you're going to get. And what you're going to get is he could be a 2 somewhere. He could totally be a 2, and you're asking him to be a 3. So I'm taking that any day.
I think that's pretty solid. And I think one of the things about the depth of pitching staffs that often gets overlooked is your depth past your number 5 starter, because almost no rotation in the history of baseball has ever gone, all right, we got our 5 starting rotation and they're all going to pitch every 5th game and no one's going to get hurt at all. And it's going to be amazing. The Mariners were about as close as there is last year. I think all of their top starting 4 were healthy basically all year long. But how is the depth of this Yankees rotation behind it? Because I know there was a lot of pitching depth given up in that Juan Soto trade, which obviously you bring in Juan Soto into Yankee Stadium, like you're not going to be complaining too much about losing your number 4 or 5 or whatever starter. But still, it is something you have to look at.
Well, it wasn't just the Juan Soto thing, because if you recall, the Yankees traded some depth away during the trade deadline in 22. Also, there are a few guys that could have been people that were or would have been, maybe impacting this season, possibly at some point. So yeah, the pitching depth, we've talked about that a lot on the show, right, Steve? Or lack
thereof. In some regard, a common phrase for Locked On Yankees fans that you'll hear me say is first call. Who's the first call? And the first call right now for the Yankees is Luke Weaver. That's the first call, because he signed a major league deal and he's going to be the long man out of the pen in all likelihood. If that first injury, who's your first call? Right now it's Luke Weaver. Who's your second call? Clayton Beeter.
Yeah.
So before the Stroman signing, we were freaked because Clayton Beeter may have projected. That was also before Weaver. Clayton Beeter projected to be the 5 starter.
Yeah.
Clayton Beeter got called up halfway through to AAA last year, struggled, and then leveled off. So there are some serious glaring question marks that we're not taking lightly because of, again, the shell shock from a season ago that, that there is better depth. At least there is Luke Weaver now. At least there is a major league arm, because last year there wasn't a major league arm.
Nope.
You immediately called Johnny Brito. Johnny Brito made it out of camp. And look, I'm not trying to knock Johnny Brito. I love the kid. I think he's a great kid and a pretty good pitcher. But for that to be the first guy right away, you're going, we might have a problem here. So at least Luke Weaver is there, so that first injury doesn't sting as much. He can hold down the fort for a little while, because he did last season for a little bit. But yeah, after that, you're kind of running off of faith for Beater, and then you're running off of faith after that for Warren, Tanner Tolley. There's Sean Boyle. Like I like these guys. AAA arms pitched pretty decently last year, but for a major league club that is all in on 2024, let's hope for the best. I think is like when you're looking past that number 5.
But it feels like that's what the Yankees are doing, because it's always if they're healthy,
Yeah.
which that's never the case. So I don't know why they keep banking on that whole if they're healthy thing, which is what we said earlier with if the Yankees are either, well, not at the top of the division. I think if they're right in there and they're close to, or it may be in a playoff spot, but they just want to get over the top, you're going to see a deal for a starter, for someone who maybe wasn't moved before the season started, like Dylan Cease, something like that. I feel like they would make that move.
Yeah, they would have to, because again, you don't have any guarantee for Juan Soto past 2024. And if you don't go all in after going all in to get him, then why did you even do it?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And there is no such thing as too much starting pitching. I mean, the Rangers, I went and looked this up from the end of the 2022 season to the trade deadline in 2023. The Rangers acquired 7 starting pitchers. 7, which is insane. And they had like 3.5 healthy come the end of the World Series.
Yeah, you really need like 8 major league starters. That's what you really need.
Yep. And right now, the Rangers' depth behind Cody Bradford as the number 5. Even Cody Bradford's the 5. I like him. I think he'd be fine as your number 5 starter. But when the depth behind him is like, they signed Jose Urena as a, depth, like probably a AAA depth option, or maybe it's Owen White, who was kind of a disaster last year, or maybe it's Jack Leiter, who just barely got to AAA at the end of his second year of basically 2 full years in AA without showing a whole lot of progress. Like you're really hoping that you don't have any setbacks from anybody in your starting rotation at the beginning of the year, and you're hoping that all your guys that are coming off the IL do come off the IL when they're supposed to and are
stay
good.
off the IL.
Yeah, exactly. And stay off
good.
the IL. And are good. Yeah. And are good. And one of them is going to be 39. Yeah, 39 this year. One of them is going to be 35, 36 this year. And
hey, but you didn't sign Kershaw, so
no.
That doesn't add to that list, at least. At least you don't have another IL prone coming back second half at the end of his career. At least you don't have another one.
Do you know how insane the Rangers IL rotation would be? They would have 4 guys on their IL for the first half of the season with a combined 8 Cy Young awards. So I don't think that was really an option with the state of the rotation right now, but I think both these teams are in a really good spot for 2024. Some good offenses, some hopefully healthy pitching, and who knows, we might see another Rangers Yankees ALCS moment like the one I very much enjoyed back in 2010. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.